Quadratic equations are equations of the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. It's that x squared that really gives this away, that this is quadratic, and quadratic equations will generally have two solutions unless both of them are the same solution, in which case we'll only have one solution. To solve quadratic equations, there are a variety of processes, and the first one we will learn is called the zero product rule. Basically, the zero product rule says if you have two numbers or expressions multiplying together to be 0, then either a or b or both of them are 0. In this first case here, we see that we have two expressions being multiplied together being set equal to 0. And so that tells us that either x plus 2 is equal to 0 or x minus 3 is equal to 0. In solving each of these linear equations, we get x is equal to negative 2 or x is equal to 3. Well, that's technically the work that you're supposed to be showing, but most of us are looking for a shortcut, and so what we do is we say, look in the parentheses, there's a plus 2, I'm going to change that to a minus 2. There's a plus 3, I'm going to change that, or a minus 3, I'm going to change that to a positive 3. And there is my solution set, the two possible values that work. And most people skip over what is in red there. Again, in this next process, we have two things being multiplied together to make 0. So either x plus 5 is 0 or 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. This means that x is negative 5 or 2x is equal to 3, resulting in x equals 3/2. Now what we generally do as our shortcut is we say, x is equal to, see our positive 5, change that to a minus 5. Notice there's a leading 2 out front. We change the negative 3 to a positive 3, and when there's that leading coefficient out front, we divide it off and write that as 3/2. And so that's generally the shortcut if you want to avoid what is in red there. If the problems are not factored like the first two problems were, then we need to factor them, and the faster you are with that, the better you're going to be. This first one factors into x minus 5 times x plus 3 is equal to 0, and therefore the solutions will be positive 5 and negative 3. I will be doing my factoring a little bit quicker from now on because it's assumed that you've got that skill mastered from previous sections, and I want to focus now on the equation solving portion of this problem. For this next problem, we get x minus 4 times x minus 4 is equal to 0, and therefore x equals 4 is the only solution. Now, sometimes this is called a double solution or a double root. Just depends upon the vocabulary you're using, but we also say that this is a solution with multiplicity of 2. Now I shouldn't say of 2, it's multiplicity 2, and it's kind of tempting to say of 2, but it isn't, meaning it shows up twice. Normally quadratic equations have two solutions, as they do in previous problems. If there aren't two solutions, as we have here, there's got to be a reason why there's no two solutions, and in this case it is because the one solution of x equals 4 shows up twice. Now, whenever you're solving quadratic equations, they need to be set equal to 0 in order to use the zero product rule. So we need to move this 2x over to the left-hand side and rewrite this as a descending polynomial. X squared minus 2x minus 24 is equal to 0. Then that will factor into x minus 6 times x plus 4 equals 0, and you can see that your two solutions are 6 and negative 4, both of which are very checkable if you were to substitute them back into the original problem. These next few problems all kind of go together. We begin with the difference of two squares, so we have x plus 5 times x minus 5 is equal to 0, and x will equal both plus and minus 5, and we usually use the plus or minus symbol. Now if I take that original problem and multiply through by 2, I get this next problem here. So I'm going to factor out a 2, have x squared minus 25 then left over equals 0, and this will factor further into 2 times x plus 5 times x minus 5 is equal to 0. Now let me write in the zero product rule for us this time because it helps us to see what we do with this 2 out front. Now you have something times something times something equals 0. In other words, 2 equals 0, or x plus 5 equals 0, or x minus 5 equals 0. 2 equals 0 makes no sense, and so we ignore it. Anytime there is a constant number out front without a variable, it gets crossed off when it's in factored form. You could also think of this as dividing 2 off of each side, and 0 divided by 2 is still going to be 0. Now we still have the two solutions, x equals plus or minus 5.